The last president to make his official visit to the United States was in 2003, and that is the late President Mwai Kibaki. 21 years later, President William Ruto is on a 4-day state visit to the United States of America. What does this portend for Kenya on matters trade as well as security? We'll be answering that in the course of Prime Edition. But first things first, the highlights. President Ruto meets U.S. House of Representatives Speaker and the Senate leadership ahead of his Thursday meeting with President Joe Biden. Senator Okia Omtata moves to court to block the Finance Bill 2024 public participation.
The government's emergency response to the emergencies occasioned by floods does not include compensation to crop and livestock farmers affected by floods.
And government rules out compensation of farmers who lost crop and livestock to floods. Good evening once again. This is Prime Edition. I'm Regina Manyara. Now, President William Ruto is expected to meet U.S. Congress leadership later this evening as he seeks to rally both houses to back Africa's reform agenda in the financial architecture of multilateral lenders. Ruto, who is already in Washington, will also meet a House of Representatives Speaker Mike Johnson, Senate leadership led by Charles Schumer.
Moments after 10 a.m. in Washington, D.C., touchdown of jet carrying President William Ruto at Joint Base Andrews.
Where are you now?
Beginning the final leg of his 4-day state visit to the United States of America. The last time the Kenyan flag was hoisted in the U.S. Capitol being 2003, when the late President Mwai Kibaki visited Washington. The president disembarks accompanied by the First Lady to a warm reception by First Lady of the United States, Joe Biden. Full ceremonial state honors for a visiting head of state at the base before boarding his motorcade for the Arlington Cemetery. Ruto is scheduled to meet congressional leaders who include Speaker Mike Johnson, Senate leadership led by Charles Schumer, where he is expected to rally them to back Africa's push for financial architecture reforms at the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. While speaking in Atlanta on Monday, Ruto had said that increasing debt levels are not only choking economic prosperity in African countries, but are also metamorphosing into a threat to democracy. The president will also address a black caucus at the Library of Congress after the meetings. Though there is a tech roundtable in the White House today, Thursday is D-Day for Ruto and his delegation, as President Joe Biden formally welcomes them to the White House for bilateral discussions and a possible joint address. John Jacob Curia, Prime Edition.
And that we understand that he has already met, or rather addressed, the Library of Congress. So tomorrow, President William Ruto will be formally received by his host, U.S. President Joe Biden. Now, back local Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua is backing a proposal to subsidize the cost of energy-efficient equipment for faster realization of green and clean energy among developing countries. Speaking at the International Energy Agency's 9th Annual Global Conference on Energy Efficiency in Nairobi, Gachagua said the subsidy will lower the cost of installation of green energy. Renewable energy accounts for about 90% of Kenya's electricity supply currently, with the country targeting 100% of electricity generation from renewable energy sources by the year 2030, as well as a net zero carbon emission by the year 2050.
Going green and clean is not enough. We must establish and promote proficient and efficient energy systems in all sectors of our economy.
Deputy President says Kenya requires over $600 billion in investment to realize these energy targets.
Meeting the growing demand during this decade does not always call for huge generation capacity expansion, but unlocking conservation and efficiency in consumption. We can only transform our world together when we make deliberate efforts of incorporating and doubling energy efficiency in every strand of development.
Gachagua is calling for sustained joint resource mobilization, partnership and investment from local and international actors.
The economic growth will come from an International Energy Agency is going to work with Kenya, Africa and with all the countries to make sure that the future of the energy sector is a clean one, sustainable one and secure one for everybody.
He urged the international community to ensure resources as committed during COP28 and similar forums are availed to, among others, initiatives, fund innovations and promote climate action in Kenya and Africa. Busia Senator Kiem Tata and activist Eliud Matindi are back in court seeking to stop the ongoing public participation in the Finance Act of 2024. As Ruth Womboy reports, the duo argues that the Finance Act 2024 has been tabled prematurely since there is no approved fiscal framework for the financial year 2024-2025, which is supposed to implement.
In documents filed before the Milimani Local Kiem Tata and Eliud Matindi state that it is only after Parliament has procedurally enacted the Appropriation Act 2024 that the Finance Act 2024 can lawfully be introduced in the National Assembly. They said that the Finance Act and the Appropriation Act are interdependent, whereby the Finance Act provides for the generation of resources, while the Appropriation Act provides for the expenditure. Under a certificate of urgency, the duo has urged the Milimani Constitution and Human Rights Court to stop the members of Parliament from deliberating on the Finance Act 2024, among other issues. Elsewhere, Senior Principal Magistrate Robinson Ondeki has ruled a police officer Aziz Ali and other suspects linked to a group that allegedly robbed Kenyans in Nairobi be remanded until 27 May 2024. The magistrate said that the investigating officers deponed a note that the four suspects need to remain in police custody to allow KDF to give information as to whether the KDF number plates that were found with the suspects are theirs.
It is prudent that the KDF confirms that indeed the stickers and fitted sirens had been issued by them, and the rest of government stores also to give a word whether the government stores that were recovered were issued by the Chief Service Armourer of the Republic of Kenya.
The suspects who were charged on Monday are accused of neglecting to surrender 3 tear gas canisters to Amarias required by the NPS Act. Another line, he was an officer of the rank of a captain at KDF, having equipment meant to discipline police officer, including radicals and tear gas canisters, among other counts. Finally, a Milimani's magistrate court has ordered the sentencing of a convict of robbery with violence be done on 3rd June this year. This is after a rare scenario occurred with the convict admitting before trial magistrate Godfrey Onsarigo to being armed with a military dagger along Tomboya Street on March 2023.
The sentence report for sentencing. So we come back for sentencing on the 3rd of June.
The convict Alvin Mashari was not shy to point out that the dagger presented in court as the exhibit was indeed the one he wanted to commit robbery with violence with. With the suspects having been found with different identity cards, the court has ruled that the investigating officer needs more time to establish their real identities. Ruth Wamboi reporting from Milimani Law Courts.
Now from the courts, just to remind you that my colleague on sign language is none other than Lady Anwangeshi, and we're taking our first breather. We'll be back with more on Prime Edition. Do not go away.
Are you looking for competent college training founded on Christian background? Sensei Institute of Technology is the right place. Welcome to the home of great practical skills where learning is hands-on, the CBC way, and everyone has potential.
I'm Silvano Magez Mugisha from Uganda. I'm a student in Sensei Institute of Technology. I've taken several courses in Sensei, which is plant operator, plant mechanics, automotive electronics, and solar installation and CCTV. The reason why I've done all those courses with Sensei, Sensei gives the best practical skills in all fields, and these skills always help us to provide our best to the society. I've had a very good experience with Sensei because the teaching staff of Sensei do not only act like teachers, but they even act like parents, so they have given me a good experience in school and outside school.
All you need is your ID card to be admitted to either of our 2 campuses in Nairobi and Nakuru. Call us on 0717-951-055 or 0729-891-301. Institute of Technology. My skills, my future.
Multi-bonus. Zidisha ushindi wako hadi 1,000,000 na multi-bonus 1,000%. Kuwa mshindi. Mozartbet.
Third-party insurance is mandatory under the law. It covers death or bodily injury to passengers, death or bodily injury to pedestrians, and damage to third-party property. Third-party policy does not cover the loss or damage by fire, theft, and accident to the vehicle. It also does not cover the owner of the vehicle and the driver. Consider taking a personal accident to cover driver and owner of the vehicle. Motor vehicle insurance cover is not transferable. When you sell your vehicle, remember to cancel your policy. Read and understand the terms and conditions of your policy. This message is brought to you by the Insurance Regulatory Authority, IRA. Bima bora kwa taifa.
Welcome back to Prime Edition. Now, Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Mithika Linturi says the government does not have the budget to compensate farmers who lost their crops and livestock to flash floods and rains that wreaked havoc across the country. Speaking before the Senate, Linturi said the ministry is yet to assess the full damage caused by the floods to determine any action to be taken. However, the CS remarks comes days after Agriculture Principal Secretary Dr. Paul Wono said the government will find a way of compensating farmers in the country whose crops were destroyed by the floods.
The torrential floods witnessed in different parts of the country. The rains leaving a trail of destruction, sweeping with it over 200 lives and displacing over 200,000 Kenyans, with many more still feeling its impact. Farmers, some of whom invested millions of shillings, have not been spared. According to the Ministry of Agriculture, a total of 33,000 hectares of crops have been destroyed by floods across the country. Early this month, Agriculture Principal Secretary Dr. Paul Rono said the government will find a way of compensating farmers in the country whose crops were swept away by the floods.
Tumeona imeharibu mimea mingi. Imeharibu shamba mingi ya mimea. Na tumechupanga sasa kama serikali kuona vile tutasaidiana na wale wakulima ambao mimea yao iliharibika wakati wa mvua kama hii.
However, Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Mithika Linturi, while sympathizing with the affected farmers, now say that compensation is not on the table, citing budgetary constraints.
The government's emergency response to the emergencies occasioned by floods does not include compensation to crop and livestock farmers affected by floods. The government has no budgetary allocation for the purpose of compensation of farmers affected by the floods, and it is worth noting that Tana River County is also affected by floods resulting from the enhanced rainfall in those months of April again and May, and this is the season we are in.
Speaking before the Senate, Linturi said the ministry is yet to ascertain the full damage caused by the floods, as some areas are still flooding.
We will endeavor to check within the scope of our crop insurance what we can be able to make out of whatever has happened by sitting down with our insurers and discussing with them after the establishment of the level of loss, because right now it is not able to really to say with a lot of authority how much we've been able to lose.
Linturi acknowledged the Tana River County was among the worst affected devolved units. Abdiaziz Hashim for Prime Edition.
So while that debate is raging, a section of victims of floods residing in Manyara camp for internally displaced persons, IDP, in Tana River County have protested a move by the local authorities to try and relocate them from government land. The victims, constituting 350 households, claim that the county government had cut water supply at the camp as a way of forcing them out. They are now calling on the government to intervene.
A tour of the camp by journalists revealed the sad situation on the ground as empty collapsible water tanks had started being covered with soil with the taps exposed, an indication that water services had been stalled. The victims now want the county government to hold the planned relocation, saying they have no other higher or safer place to run to.
Muda wiki tatu sijapata maji sisi. Kio nataka tumaliza sisi huku pia nakimbia maji sisi. Tutoke kwa bonde, serikali amesema huku endeni kwa milima. Huyo milima pia kaunti ametunyanyasa, amesema ardhi sio yenu, tahama nyinyi.
Tunaomba serikali wasitutumie watu wenye watakuja kutuambia hapa msijenge hapa, muhame hapa.
Meanwhile, the government has begun the process of dissolving the Mai Mahiu IDP camps that were formed as homes of the affected families following the Mai Mahiu tragedy. The move aims at helping the victims to rebuild their lives 3 weeks after the tragedy.
Tukaambiwa tumetafutiwa 2 weeks. Kila mtu ajipange, anatafuta nyumba, aoneshane ndio aenda lipiwe 3 months na upewe chakula na upewe 5,000 last tuondoke.
Elsewhere, education stakeholders in Merti sub-county of Isiolo have made arrangements to ensure that learners from the 7 schools whose classroom and sanitation blocks were badly damaged by floods are facilitated with alternatives.
All our pit trains, 8 pit block trains have already submerged, they have sunk. Some semi-permanent classes have also submerged. And temporary classes have been already destroyed.
But what we've had in terms of engagement with teachers today is simply to look at the challenges. There's that in terms of infrastructure. There's understaffing when it comes to GSS.
Meanwhile, activities at Busia Hills Academy have been disrupted after the walls of classrooms collapsed. The management of the school has blamed an investor who constructed a building beside the school for the incident.
Na class 3 ziliweza kuporomoka, na nikichunguza nikaona kwamba ziliporomoka kwa sababu sehemu ya foundation ilikuwa interfered na yule anayejenga jirani yangu hapo kando.
The OSPD, we have directed the OCS to take up the matter with the DSIO to investigate whoever failed to act in time to stop such a disaster.
Finally, over 250 flood victims who moved from learning institutions to the PCA Upendo Church in Gataka in Kajiado County have expressed fears of an outbreak of disease, lamenting the lack of toilets and necessary materials.
We are not very sure of what might happen. There is a looming issue of maybe epidemics like cholera and other things. And so we pray that we need quick intervention.
I want to take this opportunity and appeal once again to the government, well-wishers, body of Christ, humanity as a whole. Let us come together and stand with this Gataka community, and you will be blessed.
The Commission on Administrative Justice is calling for the strengthening of legal frameworks to ensure that decisions and recommendations are binding to curb impunity in the public sector. This is after the Commission cited a culture of secrecy, unresponsiveness and impunity in the public sector. In a report dubbed the Status of Administrative Justice and Access to Information 2012 to 2023, delay of services by public institutions accounted for the highest form of maladministration at 22.6%, while discourtesy was the least at 2%.
According to a report dubbed the Status of Administrative Justice and Access to Information 2012-2023, the Commission on Administrative Justice documented prominent forms of maladministration handled since its inception. They cited delay by a public institution to act within reasonable time in breach of laid down standard procedures, unresponsive official conduct, abuse of power, unfair treatment and administrative injustice. Low application of technology and the culture of secrecy, unresponsiveness and impunity in the public sector were also cited. During the period under review, 17 public institutions accounted for 53.34% of 42,678 complaints received by the Commission. Leading the list is the National Police Service at 9.2%, the Ministry of Lands and Physical Planning at 6.88%, and the Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government at 6.62%. The Department of Immigration came in last with 1.14%. The challenges the CAJ faced during the period under review included inadequate legal framework which inhibited enforcement of its decisions and recommendations. Others are financial constraints leading to low public awareness of the Commission's mandate and a low staff capacity at 38% of the approved establishment. CAJ is also seeking enhanced automation of processes, procedures and systems in the public sector, including records management. Yusufar reporting for Prime Edition.
The Madaraka Day preparations in Bungoma County are in full swing and progressing seamlessly. According to Interior Principal Secretary Dr. Raymond Omolo, citizens are urged to participate in this historic celebration, which is set to take place in Bungoma County for the first time. At Msinda Muliro Stadium, this epicenter of the celebrations, Dr. Omolo confirmed that the construction of the main stage is almost complete, with contractors working tirelessly to ensure it meets the deadline. During the rainy season, Dr. Omolo assured that appropriate measures are in place to prepare the stadium for the celebrations created by the Bungoma County Governor Ken Lusaka.
The public terraces are all ready to host a total of 12,700 residents of Bungoma as well as visitors. And then the VIP pavilion is equally ready to host almost another 2,000 with the main pavilion hosting His Excellency the President and his guests.
Medical and lab officers in the country held peaceful demonstrations in Nairobi Wednesday to push the government to heed to their demands. The technicians who downed their tools close 2 months ago are accusing the Ministry of Health for refusing to recognize their union.
For the 50th consecutive day, medical and laboratory technicians boycotted work, taking the battle to the Ministry of Health Afya House headquarters on Wednesday. Donned on their white lab coats and carrying placards, the striking technicians who preached "Come for a while" at Afya House sharply criticized the Ministry of Health for allegedly ignoring their 3-year quest to be recognized as unionizable staff.
They have never called us to any meeting. And when the Minister of Labour decided to end these issues and invited us for discussions, the Minister of Health neither sent a representative, the same thing to the COG.
You cannot treat us with contempt, yet you want our members to go and do medical diagnosis in hospitals.
Through their Secretary General Pius Nyakundi and National Chairperson Nicholas Odipo, the lab officers also vowed not to return to work until they are paid their risk allowances.
If the ministry could have called us to the table and told us that these are give and take, we could be able to go back to the drawing board and say, let's go back to job as we solve the other issues. But unfortunately, we cannot go back to job without a turn to work formula that has an irreducible minimum of a risk allowance, enhanced risk allowance, and a recognition agreement.
They also voiced their concerns over what they termed as critical medical laboratory services, including HIV testing in the country, being conducted by non-qualified officials.
There have been complaints of giving of false results by these people, but the ministry is trying to cover up this issue. We want to tell them that the people who are responsible to test HIV in this country are medical laboratory officers who are registered and licensed to practice medical laboratory in this nation.
For Prime Edition, I'm Joseph Wahungu.
To the counties, the Kenya Methodist University, in partnership with other global universities, is set to establish a global mental health center at the main campus in Meru County to address mental health illness among the youth. Meanwhile, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission has launched investigations into the alleged misuse of bursary funds and irregularities in the construction of peace border schools in West Pokot. This and more in our county news roundup.
Professor Edward Bantu of the Inter-University Council for East Africa says the center will address mental health issues and unlock the potential of students.
We discover that students get services from the spiritual realm. They pray so that they can be able to be okay. But when they are overwhelmed with the life experiences, like the stresses of exams, like the stresses of poor background.
Elsewhere, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission North Rift Regional Manager Charles Rasugu says the commission is investigating cases of alleged misuse of bursary funds and irregularities in the construction of peace border schools in West Pokot.
We need a proactive way of reducing the chances of those investigation cases coming up so that we are able to prevent it and the resources of Mwananchi go to where it is needed for the purpose of serving the public.
Meanwhile, representatives from various ministries of health and national HIV programs in Africa have adopted a raft of strategies that will be used in the war against HIV and AIDS in the continent.
Upon re-engagement, a lot of times they present with advanced HIV disease. In 2022, we had 18,000 AIDS-related mortality, majority of whom was caused by TB, followed by cryptococcal meningitis.
Still in Nairobi County, a section of leaders in Kamukunji has called for the allocation of more funds to the Constituency Development Fund Kitty.
Tunahitaji budget zaidi kwa shule za Kenya za Nairobi. Kwa mfano shule zetu zina wanafunzi wengi sana. Nairobi ina watu 5 milioni. Eneo la Kamukunji peke yake ina watu 500,000. Kwa hivyo nafasi za shule za serikali hazitoshi. Tunahitaji kupanua shule zetu.
Finally, residents of Ndonyo Njeru Township in Kinangop constituency, Nyandarua County, have raised money to construct a section of a road that was left unattended by a local contractor.
Hatutakubali tena kuona town yetu kama haipitiki, na ndio tumeamua sisi wenyewe tugharamie na tukachangana pesa ndio.
The residents say they've been incurring losses because movement between farms and the market had been hampered by the dilapidated road network. Kasi Chenamasha, Prime Edition.
Now we go to the cinemas. In our weekly segment, Cinemas and Theatre, this week we review short film Melita that unveils a poignant narrative that confronts head-on the grim reality of sexual exploitation and abuse within the workplace, shedding light on a pervasive issue that continues to plague societies worldwide.
How long has it been?
I'm sorry, sir. I don't understand what you mean.
10 years?
Melita is a drama film that tackles the difficult and timely subject of sexual exploitation and abuse in the workplace, as well as the devastating consequences it can have on individuals and families.
The whole reason why I invested here, na lazima uelewe lugha ya biashara. Nipe nikupe.
That is not happening. Not today, not ever.
The film tells the story of Melita, a single mother who finds herself confronted by the harsh reality of sexual exploitation at her workplace. When she refuses to compromise her morals, she is fired, setting off a chain of events that will change her life forever.
What is that supposed to mean?
He grabbed me by my waist. He wanted to assault me. He wanted me to sleep with him for him to sign.
So this is the reason why I don't have my order yet. You are an adult. Deal with it.
Dantes Mwendwa, who directed the film, notes that what sets Melita apart is its unflinching portrayal of the dark realities of sexual exploitation.
My motherly instincts told me something had gone wrong, and I couldn't imagine something bad happening to my Puka and my best friend Talasi. They were the only people that mattered in my life.
We were trying to touch on topics people rarely talk about, like sexual exploitation. And also we were trying to explore the theme of forgiveness and second chances.
I remember we shot for 2 days, which I thought it was going to be time limiting because of the scenes that we had. But the uniqueness of that project is I was working with a crew that I was familiar with already.
We were not filming in Nairobi, we were filming in Kisii. So we were staying in guest rooms, not your bedrooms, you'll go home and all that. So everyone has their way of doing things. So there's always the clash, but the best thing is that despite the clash, everyone was like a family.
You think I hired you because of your morals? I hired you because of your beauty. I hired you because of these kind of clients.
The fact that the film and the theatre industry has only been based in Nairobi County, I feel sad because these are things that used to happen in school. I remember there used to be plays, and once you engage yourself in a play, that's how you learn how to tell a story. So I feel like the government should help us to make sure all these facilities like the theatre rooms, the cameras are available the mashinani way. Like.
The mayor has pardoned you.
What?
You're going home.
While Melita could be a difficult film to watch, it is an important one. It shines a light on the often hidden world of sexual exploitation and abuse and the devastating consequences it can have on individuals and families. Jacqueline Masharia for Cinemas and Theatre.
Very close to our hearts there at a time when the country is grappling, we know, with rising cases of gender-based violence. We have that particular segment each and every week with Jacqueline Masharia. Now, the National Cohesion and Integration Commission is offering to facilitate negotiations in the decade-long ethnic conflicts along the Migori and Narok counties border. Outgoing Migori County Commissioner David Gitonga also said security teams from both counties are close to reconciling the warring Kipsigis and Kuria communities.
Speaking during his farewell address in Migori County, the outgoing Migori County Commissioner David Gitonga said a resolution to the prolonged ethnic conflict along the Migori and Narok borders is close by.
We've been engaging with the county security team. We've also been able to integrate NCIC. They have been able to engage. They have been holding consultative meetings with the village elders. And very soon that thing will be a thing of the past.
To reconcile the warring Kipsigis and Kuria communities, Gitonga has called for reparations of property held by security forces to their rightful owners.
We are at an advanced level. There are some stocks which are currently at Astu in Angata, and they will be handed over possibly tomorrow to the members of the Kuria community.
We have with the peak tomorrow to ensure that one of the most contentious issue of the animals that have been in custody of the anti-stock theft police unit will be raised to their rightful owners tomorrow.
NCSC representatives in Migori County, Gilbert Onyango, stressed the need to identify key players in the conflict and engage politicians and local leaders to address the root causes.
We are going to engage all the stakeholders, all the actors that have been involved in that conflict, bring them together, negotiate and ensure that peace prevails.
The Kuria and Kipsigis communities are feuding over ownership of a stretch of fertile land along the border, resulting in loss of lives and property. Serafina Robi for Prime Edition.
Well, in not too long, we're going to be speaking matters business with none other than Barimon Janga. So do keep it right here. But first things first, here we have another break.
Haya, sisi ya kungoja kwenye star 570 hash kuna ploti na ni up to 1.1 million Kenyan shillings with a genuine title deed na inakungoja star 570 hash ukana zake.
Unamaanisha nini kusema wanapigana, anapiga yeye mngumi, anamwambia wewe unaniharibia boma.
Kwa kuna bali nirusha ngumi. Sijui kama ni mzee ama ni nini. Ngumi ikakwama, ukamata ile inaitwa kimunga.
Hiyo ni nini?
Paso kuni.
Wewe ni wa dini gani?
Sema dini yako bwana.
Muhindi.
Hai. Ya hunga.
Nilisikia tu kofi imekuja tu. Nikasikia nimeona mavurungu. Pia kote nani? Kuja. Wewe. Kuja. Nifikeni.
Unaye heshimisha watu wote Mungu.
Fear is the belief that God is not with you, you of little faith.
You know, Jesus said, let this mind that was in me be in you. In a generation of different ideologies, scientific, atheism, African Renaissance, how do we ideally allow the mindset of Christ?
Tuko kwa generation, we are chasing the interests, where we have small boys, big cars. We are in a space where tutaki kuwa patient. We want life that comes up so fast.
I sticked and I had discipline in my whole life to say that I want to stand out in the community and I want to be a champion of saying it's not about what you guys know, it's about what God knows about your life.
We take a look at the day's business. My name is Wairu Mujenga. The digital infrastructure comprising digital hubs and Wi-Fi hotspots being set up across the country are meant to fast-track adoption of e-commerce. Information, Communication and the Digital Economy Cabinet Secretary Eliud Owalo says the government is keen on facilitating Kenyans to access online work opportunities.
Information, Communication and the Digital Economy Cabinet Secretary Eliud Owalo was on Wednesday morning in Kajiado constituency, where he officiated the opening of a digital hub. While here, Owalo challenged traders, especially in rural areas and informal settlement, to tap the digital space to grow customers for their products.
Mpango kabambe ambayo tuko nayo katika digital transformation ni kuhakikisha kwamba kazi ya vijana na wasichana tunapanga mashinani na wanafanyia kampuni za huko nje ya Ulaya huko na wanalipwa tena vile vile kwa njia ya madola.
He said the target is to set up 25,000 Wi-Fi hotspots in all established markets and 1,450 digital hubs countrywide, which will open up new work opportunities for Kenyans.
Mahali vijana wetu na wasichana wetu wanaweza someshwa ufunzi ya kidijitali na vile vile wapate kazi hapo mashinani. Is that you are going to develop the skills to be able to offer, and you should take advantage of that and tap that market and make it work for yourself. You can be your own boss.
He underscored the need for Kenyans to embrace online services on eCitizen for accessing government services, for enhanced efficiency and fighting corruption.
Kuitisha hongo kwa maafisa wa serikali, hiyo tutazika katika kaburi la sahau. Tutahakikisha kwamba wananchi watapata huduma za serikali katika eCitizen platform kutoka mahali popote walipo, hata wakiwa nyumbani.
Edna Murungi for Prime Edition.
Now, the government has been urged to set up the Climate Action Fund, a critical financial mechanism designed to support Kenya's transition to a low-carbon economy and enhance resilience to climate change impacts. Environmental groups argue that the fund will not only accelerate climate action, but also stimulate economic growth and job creation in green sectors. The call comes as the climate-related disasters intensifies, underscoring the urgent need for robust funding to drive effective mitigation and adaptation efforts.
Provided for strategies that
early this year, Kenya secured a 39.3 billion shillings fund to roll out a locally led climate action financing program. The initiative, dubbed Financing Locally Led Climate Action FLOCA, was established to provide targeted financial support for projects that reduce greenhouse gas emissions, promote renewable energy, and enhance climate resilience in vulnerable communities. However, despite its creation, the fund remains largely inactive, with significant portions of its allocated budget unutilized.
Climate change fund that is meant to be able to finance climate action in Kenya. This fund, due to certain technicalities, is yet to be constituted.
What we are calling for is basically to make sure, first of all, we deliberately have the food system as part of the climate conversation.
A regional workshop on climate change and food systems transformation was held in Nairobi, with stakeholders pressing for heightened focus on both mitigation and adaptation strategies to address the climate crisis.
food systems are extremely wide, ranging from the issue of where it is, the locality itself, the production of the food, the markets, the transportation, the processing.
Frederick Mwoki for Prime Edition.
Now, Kenya is working closely with all stakeholders to boost tourist arrivals through cruise ships. Kenya Tourism Board Managing Director Jude Chepkemei says even though arrivals have rebounded to pre-COVID levels, Kenya targets to net more tourists arriving via cruise ship. Speaking when she received a cruise ship on Wednesday morning that brought in 753 tourists. Chepkemei said the tourists were sampling the safari, Swahili culture and other experiences in Kenya before sailing off to Zanzibar.
We are really happy and honored that the cruise tourism
that the country has been yearning for is really picking up. As you are all aware, this is not the first vessel that has called here.
We will continue to work together with the players to ensure that indeed the coastal part of this country benefits from cruise tourism. We are also glad that the team that docked this morning has managed to experience Kenya.
We so much wanted to come to Kenya that we braved the storm that traveled between Madagascar and the Kenyan coast. So we had a very rough 2 sea days ahead of reaching Kenya.
It's been wonderful. It's been an unexpected surprise. We were supposed to go to the Mediterranean, but instead we were able to come to Africa and Kenya and Mombasa instead.
Kenya Power is proposing a total ban on copper exports as a way of discouraging vandalism of public infrastructure. Kenya Power Managing Director Engineer Joseph Sirol is in the meantime counting on members of the public to join the fight against vandalism by volunteering information. He is also appealing to potential customers to follow the right procedure for electricity connections.
Other anti-vandalism initiatives include welding transformer unit bases on channels, installing transformer units above high voltage lines, installing alarm systems on transformers, switching from oil-filled to oil-dry units, using aluminium transformers, and extending intelligence gathering.
We'll be working with the organizations themselves, the people who are doing, the people who are in business, in scrap metal business, so that they can also be able to report these issues.
The public has been helping us, and our cases have been coming down. We've been working together with Kenya Power. We've met in several public engagements. We team up, all of us. Since we started teaming up, the cases have come down.
Now, higher interest income powered Kenya Commercial Bank Group's pre-tax profit for the first quarter of this year by 53%, making the bank the most profitable lender in the region. The group's after-tax profit for the first 3 months of 2024 almost doubled to 16.5 billion shillings from 9.8 billion shillings in a similar period in 2023, according to its quarterly financial results. Now, total revenue increased by 31.6% to 48.5 billion shillings on account of non-funded and funded lines. The Kenyan Bank now overtakes Equity Bank as the most profitable in the region, a position it lost 4 years ago. Now, the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD, is calling for a united regional response in the management of desert locust and other transboundary pests. Each IGAD member state has been urged to harness innovative technologies such as the use of drones, satellite monitoring systems to increase vigilance, as well as digital data for transboundary pest surveillance, monitoring and control operations. Transboundary pests such as desert locusts, quail birds and the fall armyworms have in recent years been a threat to food security and livelihoods in the Horn of Africa region. Speaking during the IGAD meeting for the steering committee and ministerial meetings on representatives and ministers from 7 countries resolved to adopt a common approach in the management and control of the migratory pests.
The challenges posed by transboundary pests are significant, but by working together, develop and implement strategies that will protect our agriculture and secure our food systems.
They resolved to establish a comprehensive data and information center for transboundary pests
regional cooperation, improve pest management strategies, and facilitate the timely exchange of crucial information.
Adopting harmonized policies and regulations to measures, preparedness and responsive mechanisms, and to increase knowledge exchange and capacity, particularly in the use of biopesticides.
And I am confident that our collective efforts will yield meaningful and impactful outcomes.
Research and development, as well as fostering innovative technologies, is expected to minimize harm to the environment. He says prioritizing capacity building and training extension workers and relevant authorities will enhance the ability to manage the pests.
The importance of having an insurance cover, especially for small businesses, was among lessons a Kibra-based entrepreneur learned from the recent flooding experienced in parts of the country. Chepchilchil visited the entrepreneur whose stocks were washed away when River Ngong broke the banks and files this report.
This is River Ngong, which in the past few weeks almost claimed lives. Kibra. We meet Ms. Lambatia, a resident who has been residing in Kibra, adjacent to the overflowing river that shook her business down in just a span of. We head to our house. We are greeted by the trash washed aside by the recent floods. Mesla, who is a single mother, has been selling detergents for 4 years. Floods wiped away her stock.
Sasa vitu wakati zilienda hivyo, tukawa hatuna options, hatuna pesa, sabuni yenye ilikuwa na hustle ndani, maji. Kujimudu ikakuwa ni ngumu sana.
Although she has been doing business for a while, she says it has been a challenge restarting.
Yenye maji yalianza kuingia, ilifika mpaka katikati, karibu katikati ya nyumba. Na yale zile sabuni zote zikachanganyikana na maji. Na ukapata zote zilimwagika zikae. Changamoto yenye nilikuwa nayo nilikuwa nimebeba pesa yangu yote yenye nilikuwa nimeweka pale ya biashara.
She says the floods also affected some of her customers who have been forced to rebuilding their lives.
Nikaona unapata 3/4 ya wale watu ulipea. Unapata kesho yake wengine walienda, izaidha wengine walichomekewa, izaidha wengine venye floods zimekuwa hivi wengi walihama.
Ms. understands the need for insurance and wants insurance companies and agencies to do more to raise awareness, especially among small businesses.
Ini hapo. Sasa sijui inafanywa aje unless kama kuna mtu anaweza direct.
She also wants the national and county government to support businesses affected by natural disasters such as flooding.
Mimi ningependa serikali ije ituelekeze ndio pata msiba wa maji tena wakati mwingine nisianze na kuona ni kama kuna ugumu wa kuanzisha tena biashara yangu.
With just a scope of Mel's story, it is a call to secure their jobs through insurance to avoid long-term losses caused by such disasters. Reporting for KBC Channel 1, my name is Lauren Jepchirchir.
Thank you, Lauren, for that wonderful story. Now, that is a wrap from me, but on the other end of the studio, we have Daniel Wahome with the day's sports. My name is Werin Mujenga. See you tomorrow.
Back to the future. The future is simulated. Win faster now. Be a winner. Mozartbet.
The calls to reform the global financial architecture is gaining traction. Here in Africa, Kenya is leading in this push. But the question is, will world powers yield to these demands?
This is a conversation the President has done very well, and is providing that leadership even as he travels abroad. He keeps really hammering this point that we really need to see how to reform the international financial architecture. Both the IMF, World Bank Group, and others.
This week on Inside the Government, we're talking to the Principal Secretary in the State Department, Financial Treasury, Dr. Chris Pipton. Revolve around the upcoming annual general meeting of the African Development Bank, the agenda, and the expected outcome. Conversation right here on KBC Channel 1 with me, O'Brien Kimani.
Find out what Kaikara is up to.
Just be careful how you deal with that man.
The fact that I read the Bible.
By now you should know that Ronald double-crossed us.
How? Ruth!
What's up with you and Nick?
Come on, Alice. We've always been close.
We need to find Ronald, and fast.
My instincts tell me he's not straightforward.
Nini uniambi?
Yeah, she knows too much.
Dad and I were not in good terms before he passed on. It hurts like hell.
Sorry, Alice, I didn't.
I know you're a busy man. I understand.
Was just passing by. I wanted to talk to your boss.
My boss?
You have way too many bosses.
There we see. And drama will be ratcheted up.
Sports News is brought to you by Mozart Bet.
A very good evening to you. My name is Daniel Wahom and welcome to Prime Edition Sport. Now, the 2019 African Games silver medalist Mercy Wanjiru was the toast of the two championships held at the Ulinzi Sports Complex, where she recorded a double victory. Wanjiru won the women's 5,000 meters race today to add to her 3,000 meters steeplechase title she clinched yesterday as athletics team for the African Senior Athletics Championships set for the 21st to the 26th of June this year in Douala, Cameroon.
Mercy clocked a time of 15 minutes 36.20 seconds to earn her slot in the Douala outing, with Glorious Chepkirui and Betty Chepchirchir in third positions respectively.
Lengo yangu ya kukimbia 5,000 leo ilikuwa kuletea jeshi KDF, my employer, medal na kutafuta.
KDF's duo of Mike Mokamba and Samuel Chege asserted their dominance in a hotly contested 200 meters race, with Mokamba taking the top honors as Chege finished second, followed by Dan Kiviasi of Kenya Prisons.
Because I had a PB of 20.73, but now it is 20.63. I appreciate it.
In the men's 10,000 meters final, Ron Sakib Korea in a time of 28 minutes 33.03 seconds ahead of Joseph Kiptum and Stanley Jehia, who took silver and bronze respectively.
Since kitambo sijawahi kimbia 10,000 meters. Pia ni kama mwili imerudi ya kuwanja. Nikatia bidii.
Discipline and hard work and patience.
Alex Ngeno of Kenya Prisons title in the 1500 meters race after clocking 1 minute 45.01 seconds. Nicholas Kiplagat and Timothy Cheriot finished second and third respectively.
Going to Africa of getting experience, so I'm just going there to prepare for Olympics.
The men's 100 meters race saw Meshak Babu of KDF emerge victorious, clock as former national champion Marco Thiambo came second, followed by Justin Isaboke.
I want to go there and lower my personal best so that I can try to qualify for Olympics. breed of people, so that's what I want to be.
The two-day national championship, which was staged at the Ulinzi Sports Complex, was used to select the Kenyan team to the Africa Senior Athletics run from 21st to 26th of June in Douala, Cameroon. Nora Mwangi reporting for Prime Edition Sports.
The national soccer team Harambee Stars coach Engin Ferrat has hinted that he may have rotational squads for the June 2026 FIFA World Cup in Cote d'Ivoire. Additionally, he clarified that foreign-based players, who include Qatar-based Michael Lunga, have not been dropped from the squad but will join the team directly in Malawi.
Harambee Stars, who will host Burundi and Ivory Coast on the 7th and 11th of June in Bingu National Stadium, Lilongwe, Malawi in the FIFA World Cup, qualified training with the local-based players at Police Eco Stadium as they prepare to leave for Malawi, where they will be joined by, among others, Michael Olunga and Richard Odada, while striker Jonah Oyugo is ruled.
According to the game plan and the coach, we'll achieve positive results because we are working on it. And as I've said, every player and concentration in the training, you can see that we'll achieve positive results.
Head coach Firat is all confident they will be able to bagel the Burundi, who will play a more defensive style of play, while African champions Ivory Coast have more quality and will push his squad to the utmost.
I can only say for our best, we will be prepared. And I believe also sometimes you need luck, you know, in this kind of matches. Because if you play against teams which are so excellent and so high level. But if we are able to have good results in this June time for the World Cup qualifiers, then we have one matches for World Cup qualifiers.
Harambee Stars, who will miss their home fans after their matches were relocated to Malawi due to lack of CAF-accredited stadiums in Kenya by a maximum of points. Kenya lies in Group F with 3 points from their opening matches against Gabon and Seychelles. Ivory Coast leads the group with 6 points, tying with Gabon, while Burundi. Gambia is 5th, followed by Seychelles, as both search for their first points. The winners of each group will qualify for the 2026 FIFA World Cup scheduled in Canada, Mexico, and the United States, while the 4 best runners-up from the 9 groups will proceed to the playoffs to determine CAF's representative in the Interconfederation playoffs will be decided. Faith Akinyi for Prime Edition.
Now, Kenya's national boxing team, the Heat Squad, is in Bangkok, Thailand, where they are raring to give their best to secure a slot among the 51 games during the second World Olympic qualification tournament scheduled to commence on Friday. The team, which comprises 3 women and 3 men, will be captained by Africa middleweight champion Elizabeth and their teammates to a glorious outing. The others are Africa bantamweight bronze medalist Amina Martha and Frieza Nyango, who was the only Kenyan to win qualifiers in Italy in the welterweight division. The men's team is led by Vice Captain Boniface Mugunde, who won bronze at the 2019 African Championships, African light heavyweight champion Edwin Okongo. The draw for the Olympic qualification tournament will be conducted tomorrow. And Kenya volleyball powerhouse GSU will have a tricky affair against Equity in the quarterfinals of the KVF playoffs, while former league champions Prisons Women will face KDF in another crunch match. The 2023-2024 KVF playoff quarterfinals at the Kasarani and Nyayo Indoor Arenas.
Playoff quarterfinal matches will be played on a best-of-3 series this weekend. GSU, who are ranked first, will play Equity Bank, while Prisons Kenya will battle Administration Police, who will be making playoffs. KPA and Trailblazers will square it out for a spot in the semi-finals, while Kenya Forest will face KDF. In the women's category, leaders KCB will take on Kenya Army. Pipe will contend against Post Bank, while DCI and Nairobi Prisons will play for a semi-final ticket. Prisons will face KDF in another match. The 4 winners of the above quarterfinals in each...
Rashford and Jadon Sancho have been left out of the England squad for Euro 2024, which runs from the 14th of June to the 14th of July. Manchester United's 19-year-old Kobe Mainoo is among the new call-ups, with England set to kick off their campaign against Serbia on the 16th of June.
England's coach Gareth Southgate presented his provisional team. Marcus Rashford, Jadon Sancho and Raheem Sterling were among those who missed the call-up. Everton's Jarrus Braithwaite, Crystal Palace Adam Wharton and Burnley goalkeeper James Trafford are some of the new faces who received the call-up along with Manchester United. Meanwhile, Saudi Pro League top scorer Cristiano Ronaldo will once again make an appearance for Portugal.
It's Ronaldo, it's 1-0 Portugal.
2018 World Cup, who was ex out of the 2022 World Cup, is part of the French national team. Real Madrid midfielder Toni Kroos will play for Germany at this year's event ahead of his retirement after the Continental Tournament. Kroos, who made 108 international appearances for Germany, will play his final match for Real Madrid in the UEFA Champions League final.
Heartbreak for him.
And George Steinhauser's claimed his maiden career win after stunning solo ride on stage 17 of the Giro d'Italia. Slovenia's Tadej Pogačar crossed the line in second place to strengthen his lead at the top of the overall standings. Pogačar had won the shortened stage 16, claiming his 5th stage win of the race so far. But it wasn't before a chaotic 3-hour delay as riders and teams refused to take the start over safety concerns.
118.4 kilometres.
Riders and teams at the Giro d'Italia refused to take to the start of the 202-kilometre stage 16 route from Lavingo to Santa Cristina Val Gardena over safety concern of the planned ascent and descent of the Umbriel Pass, which itself was a diversion from the Stelvio. Weather conditions were extremely poor with low temperatures and heavy rain, but RCS Sport, the organisers of the event, had expected the peloton to roll out of the ski resort as planned at 11:20 a.m. The teams disagreed and later accepted a 118.7-kilometre route that still contained the last 2 major climbs. Riders and sporting directors were left deeply unhappy with and expressed the importance of the safety of all riders.
The attack came from behind, from Tadej Pogačar, set up by his team.
In the end, the stage began 3 hours later and it looked too easy for race leader Tadej Pogačar, who attacked late on and won by 16 seconds from Italy's Guido Pellizzari. Bora-Hansgrohe rider Dani Martinez briefly tried to close the gap but came home with the Italian. The Colombian is now 20 seconds behind Pogačar but climbs up to second in the general classification, an unprecedented gap in modern Grand Tour cycling. Only 4 days of racing remain in the 3-week race. Only a crash or illness can prevent the Slovenian from his first Giro win on his first time trying.
Pogačar, Giro d'Italia. He counts them up. He's nearly number 5 for Pogačar.
For Prime Edition, I'm Emmanuel Ndungu.
And that's the sport for tonight. More will be coming to you tomorrow. And remember that going on right now, the Europa League final. Can Leverkusen pull off an unbeaten season overall and make history by winning 3 cups? Well, we'll keep tabs on that. My name is Daniel Wahome. Have a good evening. Back to you, Regina Manyara Gitao, after this short commercial break.
Sports News. Mozart Bet.
You can lift the plane. The higher you fly, the higher your win. The sky is the limit. Mozart Bet.
Well, indeed, thank you very much, Wah. What is happening in the sporting arena. Those who enjoy a bit of soccer, well, Atalanta and Leverkusen are actually at it right now. So you might actually now switch from Prime Edition to that particular match. And on a very light note is that Hollywood mogul, through his social handles, confirmed that he may be making... This is after he missed, the President William Ruto paid a courtesy call to his studios there.